Hey everybody, welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Cory Peterson. I am so glad that you are here today. As you guys probably know from our last podcast, we are in the middle of filling up our Kahuna boardroom. And I'm really passionate about this boardroom event and what we created because I really believe that it is absolutely unique to this genre, this multifamily class of educators. And the reason is because, I'm a deal maker. I make more money doing apartment deals than I would ever could imagine than doing education and teaching. I teach because I love it. I love giving back. And so I created an event where we teach you from A to Z the whole gambit of apartment investing, from finding deals, finding money, how to analyze the deals, how to build your team, how to make profits with operations. We go through the whole gambit and we teach you it step by step by step. We also have, we call load up before you show up. We give you a 5-week webinar training, and some of those are live, some of them are recorded, but they're really intense trainings. And then we also have a 3-day intensive, and that 3-day intensive is me kicking everybody's butt, but just giving personalized coaching and really just and making everybody do the work and get into the software and figure it out and say the words and get muscle memory starting to go. And it really is a unique event. Very proud and honored to do it. And listen, out there in the marketplace, like for these types of programs, I know some investors or some educators out there that charge $50,000 to up to $100,000 for their coaching program. What? Are you kidding me? For what? What are you doing for that amount of money? I'm not charging that at all. Not even close. And I wanted to make something where I could teach 35 people. I let 35 people into my boardroom. And the 35 people that come in that you have to do an application are killers. And they really want to move the needle. And so if that's you, what I would like to do is I want to invite you to come to a webinar. And let me kind of give you some of my secrets. Let me give you just some secrets, right? I'll talk about raising private money, some of the things I do there. I'll talk about finding deals. I'll talk about a little bit of everything into the apartment world, and then really just give you a deep dive of what my course does, and then we're going to invite you to apply. And so if you would like to learn more about the Kahuna Boardroom, simply go to Kahuna HQ. So that's KAHUNA, like the big Kahuna, HQ for a headquarters. So KahunaHQ.com is where you can go to register for that webinar. We're going to do it 2 weeks in a row. So we'll have once coming up, and then we're going to do a replay. But if you will go to KahunaHQ.com, we would love to share some secrets in the multifamily space and really give a really good insight with some videos and showing you some testimonials and some of the things that we do for you, because it really is awesome. And we just would like to invite you to take a look under the kimono and see what we do at the boardroom and see if it's for you. With that said, guys, welcome to the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Multifamily Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Cory Peterson. Man, we just keep packing great shows for you, and this is probably going to be one of my better shows that I've done, and we've had some really good people on. But my next guest has a depth of knowledge and such a large sphere of knowledge that you're definitely going to take out pens and papers and take mental notes, because he's throwing 3 types of heat, and he's got a nasty slider. So my Greg Dickerson, he's been in the business for 22 plus years. Started off as a handyman, is a multimillionaire, has a great story. Greg, welcome to the show, brother.
Cory, thank you for having me, man. Those are some kind words and a lot to live up to there.
Well, we got to make sure that you bring your A game today.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready.
So, let's just jump right into it. Um, we're talking right before the show of just kind of a little bit of your story, and just give me your little background story of kind of where you came from and where you're at now, and what you're doing right now that gets you all jelly.
Okay. Well, the quick story, over my 22-year career, I bought, developed, and sold over 200 million in real estate, and I've started 12 different companies along the way. And so I'm a serial entrepreneur, real estate developer. So I love to stay busy. I'm adult ADD, right? So I like to keep busy, but very deliberate, very organized, and very intentional about what I do. But I like to do a lot of things, and I'm very good at multitasking. So I went in the Navy right out of high school. I did not go to college, and I landed on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is a resort community off the coast of North Carolina. Summer rental homes, and started a little handyman remodeling business. And I was working for a bunch of investors that were buying houses, fixing them up, and selling them. But down there, fixing them up is putting a pool in, an elevator, closing in the ground floor, that kind of thing, right? 150 grand, 200 grand.
Just
And
small reno, right?
exactly, small reno. And I mean, I was working for these guys. One of them was like the number two guy at Citibank, and he had $1 million wine cellar that he put on his balance sheet to qualify for loans. So, and they raced Ferraris on the weekends. So these are the kind of guys I'm working for and doing projects. And I'm like, man, I want to do what you're doing. And they're like, okay, well, find us a deal, and maybe we'll do a joint venture. So I started doing some things with those guys, and then I remember the first like flip I ever did. A friend of mine who was a realtor found a lot, just a vacant lot, and he said, look, man, we can buy this thing for 65,000 and sell it for 100,000 as soon as we close. And I'm like, can you do that? And you're like, yeah. He said, you put the money up, I'll do everything else, and we'll split the profit. I'm like, okay. So I buy the land, and sure enough, 30 days later, he's got it sold. We put $15,000 each in the bank, and I'm like, still not realizing, can you really do this? And I mean, I'd owned 3 houses at the time, and so I'd bought and sold real estate for myself, but I didn't know that you could do that, right? So that kind of
Nice.
triggered, the light bulb went off. And then I had another friend who was a developer in Northern Virginia that came down, and we started building spec houses together. So he taught me how to do the spec house game. So then I developed a business where I would find land, put it under contract, flip it to an investor, build them a house. So I'd make 25, 30 on the land, and I'd make another 100, build them a house. And we had a pretty good company. So we went from 250,000 to 30 million in about 7 years, and started about 10 other companies along the way during that 7-year period. And they were all, pretty related to the construction industry: plumbing, electrical, pool spa,
Right.
landscaping, things like that. So, what I like to do is I like to coach people. So I would find great people. I'd come alongside of them, and I would coach them to success and join with them and help them build their company. And sometimes I'd come in and buy it from them, build it up, and sell it back to them. And other times it'd be somebody who was like the guy that was selling me pools and spas. He's like, man, I'm selling you 30 of these things a year. He said, I want to start my own company. I'll come with you. We'll set up a company. You can buy these things wholesale, save a bunch of money, and help me get started. And I was like, okay. So we did, and turned that into a pool spa landscaping company. And he was the largest one down there. Plumbing company, we turned him into the largest one down there. Electrical, so just that kind of thing. So that's just kind of how I'm wired, and I like to build
That is cool, by the way. That's like, let's not pause for a minute. Time out. Time out. Listen, you just unlocked something. You took good people and helped coach them to be great.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing, man. Like, that's a unique skill set, man. How do you feel like? What is it about that skill set that you have that allows you to see that, and then to get the others to take hold and say, man, that we could do something, because you hear
Yeah.
about businesses going bad all the time.
Yeah, it's tough. Business is tough, and I'm really good at discerning people and finding, I call it finding champions and coaching them to success. So it's kind of been my business philosophy all through my life. Through the military. After the military, I did restaurants and construction. It's the only 2 things I've ever done. So I was managing restaurants and doing construction, and I always
I've
had a little
managed a
side business.
restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So so it's a people business, right? And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's all about multitasking, delegating, aces in places, right? When it's on, when you're prime time, and you're doing peak volume, you put your aces in places. In a restaurant, you cross train on your off hours, but at peak hours, you put the aces in places, the right people in the right spot, so you can knock the volume out, right? So that mindset and philosophy, I just incorporated into business, and I've developed myself. So I didn't go to college, but I'm very self-educated, and I've read hundreds of books, hours and hours and hours of podcasts and audio.
You're speaking my language because I come from that same school, not
Yep.
formally educated, but educated, right?
Exactly. I mean, it was books on tape, right? And then the little Sony Walkman, and then it was the CDs, and then I had the 80 gig iPod, and I've still got it, and it's got nothing but books on it. And,
Yeah.
I mean, anytime I was out exercising, doing anything, that's what it's going in my ears, not music. I'm listening to something. I'm pouring into myself.
You're feeding your mind and just giving it new ideas, fresh perspectives, and that's really how you're able to probably lead so well.
Exactly. And that's my skill. So I'm a leader, delegator, motivator. I have no trouble at all letting go of control. I'm a very good delegator. That's like my superpower.
Yeah.
So my philosophy in business is find great people, put them in the right position, let them do their job, and let them make mistakes.
And stay out of the way.
My philosophy has always been, if I'm going to hire you and pay you a great salary, the last thing I'm going to do is do your job for you, right? So I've always looked at, when I built businesses and scaled businesses, the way mine went from 250,000 to 30 million was my first hire was an office manager / bookkeeper / administrative assistant / right? So I had that office manager bookkeeper who I poured everything on. And I mean, literally anything I needed done administratively, she did it. You would not find me behind a computer. I dictated emails. I dictated faxes back in the day. I mean, I did not do any of that, right? Because I've got this person, I'm paying all this money. So I'm going to use that person and use them to their fullest and allow them to do and take on as much as they want. On the building side, what I did was I went after some of the best people in the business that were working for the largest company down there, and I recruited them to come work for me. So I had never built a house before we started building houses. I didn't know how to do it. So I went and hired guys that were doing 60 of them a year.
Yes.
And I hired them. And I came in and I said, you teach me. You're smarter than me. You've been doing this your whole career. Show me what you know. And I took care of the rest. And I just, if you've got a thoroughbred, you don't lock them in the stall, right? You put them on the track and let them run. So that's just kind of what I'm good at. And it's what I love to do. And I've done it my whole career. Identifying businesses and companies to join with or buy was always somebody coming to me. So I've made one or two mistakes in my career where I went to somebody else and said, hey, I really think you could do something. And it usually doesn't work out. It's always the other way around. If somebody wants to make something happen, like you wanted to get into this game, right? You sought out the people you needed to find so that you could be successful. Your partners, the brokers that you partner with that bring you deals, the people that you surround yourself with in your business. These are people that come to you, right? And say, hey, I've got this ability, or, I just need help getting to the next level. So it's like my pool guy. He was already in the business, for 10, 15 years. And he came to me and said, I want to start my own company. And he did everything that he needed to do that I told him to do. I didn't have to do it for him.
Correct. The right guy is going to do and see what you possess. And he's like, listen, I know pools really well. I might need some operating capital, some help in marketing and all that stuff, but I'll do whatever you tell me.
Right. And that's how I built myself up. So I have a very strong sense of urgency, and I would go to the people that I saw that were the best in the industry doing what I wanted to do, and I would either go hire them or I'd learn from them and partner with them, right? So that's how I fast-tracked my success and shortened my learning curve. Never had an official coach or mentor, which in this day and age, we just didn't have the ability to find those people like you can now.
Yeah.
That's the best way to fast-track your success. Get somebody that's doing what you want to do, hire them if you can afford to pay them. If not, go to work for them and work for free if you have to.
Dude, yes. Gosh, you're Greg. I love what you were. So here's my thought process. Exactly the same as, I want you to one of the points I'm writing it down, just write down your point of you didn't just seek out average cats, right? You made it a point to seek out guys that were doing it really, really well. And man, if I circle that thing because I feel like that's what I've always done as well. Is I started copying at like 7th grade. Okay, Kevin Highfill, I love him. If it wasn't for him in math, right? Like I sat behind him in math, or in first hour trying to get my math done for third hour, right? And but Kevin was the smartest kid in math, man. And so if I was going to copy or model somebody, you want to model from someone that's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah,
And it's the same concept as if you're, but I love that fact of hire them. And that's ballsy. But if you do that, like you just said, they already have the skill set, and it's going to transfer you regardless, right? I mean,
exactly.
that's genius, man. That's not even rocket science, guys. Like that's just like, oh, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, well, there's nothing new under the sun. And the good thing that I've always done is I've left my ego at the door, right? So I know, and I knew that all I know is what I know, and I don't know what I don't know, right? And none of us are as smart as all of us. So I've always sought out great people, smart people smarter and better than me. Whatever I can't do or don't like to do, I delegate that out. I hire that out. I find other people to fill those gaps. I partner with them. I joint venture with them, or I hire them, right? So in my age in evolution in life now, everything is outsourced, right? So
Yep.
I've built companies, and right now I'm kind of in between, and I'm still looking for opportunities to get involved with a company. If I see the right one that can scale, I'll definitely get involved and do that. But as far as my projects go, I mean, I've got architects, engineers, general contractors. I mean, I hire it all out. Property managers that do the third party management.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at bringing that stuff in house. I go find the people that are the best already out there doing it, and then I just coach them. I lead them. I put them together, and I coach them to success. And that's just kind of what I've been able to do my entire career. And it's just very fortunate that I don't think I'm smarter than everybody else. I don't think, man, there's got to be a better way, or there's got to be, I can do it so different or whatever. Right? Franchises work for a reason. It's a system. It's proven. Sure, you can always enhance. You might always be able to find a more efficient way to do something, but you can't always find a better way to do something.
A better way. Yeah. It's always sometimes it's like there's a reason like there's step 1, step 2, and step 3, and not step 3 to 2, right? And there's usually it all works out at the end. You may not see it at the beginning, but that you're patient through the process. The other thing you said was just allowing some of them to make mistakes.
Right.
Right. When man, that is another really seasoned type of vision, right? Is you got to allow, like, when you set them free. So I do the same thing as well. I do not micromanage. Like, I have a management company. I third party out because there's no way. I mean, I want to live my sunsets and palm trees life, right? Where we got time to go do things. And if you sit there and try to put your hands in all the cookie jars, what happens truly is it becomes half baked, right? You're not getting the full product, and it's better off just letting go of the vine, empowering them, and sometimes they'll make mistakes, and that'll be the biggest lessons they'll ever have.
Yep, exactly.
Talk to that.
You find great people, you let them do their thing, and to me, at my stage, it doesn't make sense to in-house everything and try to do everything yourself. Sure, you could go hire a team and manage your own properties, but like you said, you're going to be there strapped to that operation.
Yeah.
Even though you've got people doing it, you still have to show up every day. You still have to lead that pack. Leader sets the pace of the pack, right? As the leader, you still have to show up. You cannot detach yourself from that organization. But when you have that third-party management company, or you have joint venture partners, well, then you don't have to show up every single day in an office. You can do what you want to do, be where you want to be. Everything's online now, so you can check all your metrics and your numbers and your reports, and check in with people and do those types of things. So as I evolved in my career, and I stopped, and a lot of it was the economy. 2009, when business changed, and I had to change my business model because there was no work as a general contractor. So I stopped building, and I wound that company down, and then I started hiring other builders because everybody was out of work to work for me. And back then it was cheaper than trying to hire it. Now it's not so much as cheap as it was. Construction's through the roof right now, but still it makes more sense. I'd rather pay 10, 15, 20% more for the freedom. Let somebody else do it, because then I can focus on doing more deals, bigger deals, finding more deals.
Yeah, the other things that make you happy, right? And
exactly.
That's the best use of your time.
You've got your management company. You can spend all your time putting deals together and getting them through the pipeline and helping them build their business. That's what you want to do. You want to help feed them, build their business. And
I want to be their biggest provider of new deals, right? That's it, right? Keep them rocking and rolling, and then our boats rise together. Like, I'm helping them, they're help us, and we all get what we want, right? And what we do good, and what we're good at.
That's the key. You help your trade partners, vendors, your third-party management companies. You help them be successful. You help build them up, and they'll take care of you in the long run. And everybody wins. And Sure, you're not going to make every single penny you can, that way, if you managed it yourself or whatever, but man, the time that it allows you and the scale that you can go to, and that's how you scale, right?
Yeah.
So, and
So
that's what I'm interested in.
let's talk about this a little bit. So in these business and companies, and how did you get your capital to get started and really, funding in the beginning, right? Can you talk to that a little bit? Or for
Yeah.
different maybe there's different projects, different ideas, but some
Yeah,
of the funding.
everything's different, but they're all fundamentally the same. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Okay, so that was the book that just opened my mind to having businesses that provided cash flow to invest. Right. So that's when that philosophy hit. So my construction company was the first company. I used the cash flow profit from the construction company instead of pouring it all back into the company and buying everything. I used it to invest in other assets. So I was really fortunate. I mean, at $30 million, I had a very huge line of credit, had cash, had assets. So I was just borrowing the money myself. And I was using my own cash to do my own deals. And then if a company came along, then, I would just use my own cash. But my first, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but I started with nothing and I used credit cards. When my
Yeah.
first remodeling company, I used credit cards to finance that. I borrowed everything I could along the way. I had a $20,000 equity line on my house and I had credit cards. And that's how I got through the first 5 years of that first business until I started generating income and making profit and figuring it out, right? Because I didn't know the business. I was learning as I went. I mean, I didn't know how to do
Someone
what I was doing.
said to me the best definition of an entrepreneur is he gets into a plane that flies in the air, and then he jumps out without a parachute, and he's got to build it on the way down. And
Yeah.
and really that's I have a young kid that's like 21, just turned 21. He's actually from my hometown, and we've got an internship right here at my house, and actually he's living with me. And so we were talking about this. He's like, "Well, I kind of want to get it all figured out, before I start." I'm like, "Listen, just go, and you're gonna make mistakes. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna get sloppy, and but you'll figure it out. Trust me, because it's organized chaos."
Yeah. Yeah, you learn by doing, and that was just all I had. I mean, I didn't know any better. That's what I had, and if I needed a tool, I'd whip out the credit card, I'd go get it, and sometimes I couldn't make payroll, I'd use the equity line in the house, and until I became bankable. Then once I became bankable, I had assets, I had cash flow. My company was in business for a number of years. Then I switched all of my accounts to no personal guarantees, all non-recourse loans,
Yes.
and everything was asset based. And back pre 2009, that was easier to do than it is now.
Right.
So pretty much that whole journey, my own credit, or I would joint venture with people, 2 or 3 partners in a deal, and we would all go in equal portions.
Find what you needed, like so on the bigger deal stuff, right? And I think that's another key part of this is, man, sometimes I get solo entrepreneur-ish itis. I think there's a lot of people that do that. Oh, I got to do it, and sometimes on bigger stuff, like it would never materialize if you just did it on your own because you couldn't do it. Why not find a couple other partners to bring together, and then you all bring a piece to it, and you all get to enjoy the spoils of something bigger, and it builds your resume and all that other stuff that it does to say, hey, I'm playing at a bigger level now. Because
the other thing too is you learn from those guys. So you find people that are stronger than you, that are higher level than you, and you learn from them and how they structure deals and how they do things and how they approach the deals. So most of everything I did was down there, and I had a lot of people coming down to that region from all over the Virginia Southeast region. So I made contacts from North Carolina all the way up through Northern Virginia to DC. And some of these guys were very successful, heavy hitters. I mean, some of them were worth several $100 million. And, so I learned a lot, and I made connections all up and down this region that now where I'm living in Charlottesville, Virginia, I've been able to maintain those relationships over that period. And I get deals and opportunities coming my way all the time because of those relationships that all were cultivated down in the Outer Banks.
Man, and that's one of your relationships are key in any business, no matter, real estate, anything, relationships. If they could write a book, it's how to take relationships and keep them for your whole life, because you never know where they're going to lead. Especially the right kinds of people and go-getters like that. They come back tenfold. They always do.
It's amazing, and that place down there is very special. The Outer Banks of North Carolina. I don't know if you know it, but it's Kitty Hawk, where the Wright brothers took off, and all that.
Is that where they have all the houses are named?
Yeah,
Like,
they're all
yeah,
named and they're up on stilts, and
yeah.
yeah, it's a very special place, and it's very special to people that go down there. And so it's really interesting when you develop relationships in areas like that. It kind of resonates. So as I go through the years, I stay in touch and I maintain the contacts, and talk to people that I've been talking to for 20 years and just check in on them. And we always talk about the Outer Banks and deals that we did and things and what they're doing now, what we're doing now, and I'm doing deals with people now that I met down there years ago, and it's pretty amazing. The other thing is properties. So I get calls all the time for people down there that have properties in other areas. Say, hey, I know you're up here now, and would you like to do something in this area? So it's yeah, relationships are key. That's really the most important thing in life. At the end of the day, the only thing you can take out of this world with you is somebody else's soul, right? So that's it. Hopefully you'll see yourselves in the next life and each other, and those relationships continue on. But yeah, it's amazing. It's just full circle. You never know. It always comes back around, and relationships are key.
This has been a journey. You've been on a journey, my friend. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this didn't happen overnight, and it's something that you've. And it's neat to hear you say, where I'm at now, right? Because I think when we first start out as investors, a lot of us, people listen to my podcast, hunter gatherers, man, like, listen, I'm just trying to make money for tomorrow or for this month or this week. But as you keep building these things up, you get to a point where this is where I'm at now, and it's kind of a neat deal, right? I mean, is it not? Like when you look at your life now compared to where you were coming off the boat, right, in the Navy,
Yeah.
the change. Tell me about the change. Like, what
It's
is
amazing.
different?
Well, I tell you, the biggest thing is just the wisdom and the awareness, of what I know now versus what I didn't know back then, and knowing what to do and how to do it. But more important than that, knowing what not to do. I mean, that's really the biggest key. When I say letting people make mistakes and my mistakes that I've made, the most valuable thing that I've learned in my 22-year career is what not to do. And a lot of people forget that. They're like, hey, tell me what to do. I'm like, well, let me tell you what not to do. And that'll get you a lot further. But it's just interesting because, back in the day, I wanted to do it all myself, everything in-house. All my employees were in-house. I'm buying everything direct. I'm managing everything myself, and, building all these, and now, like I say, where I'm at now, when you start getting a little older and you're 51, 52, my kids are getting older, you want to be able to, like you said, you want to be able to just, have your time, live life on your terms. During that period, I didn't take a lot of vacations. I was working, I was building companies. And I mean, I remember at one point when I was building that first company, I think it was 5 years in before I took a vacation outside of that area.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back and telling my employees, it was a spring break. I said, you guys are awesome. I said, I want you to know how much this means. It's the first vacation I've had with my family in 5 years. And because of you guys and the job that you do, I was able to leave for a week and not even have to worry and be able to come back, and everything was running better than it was when I left. Right. So how do you measure a great leader? By how well his operation runs when he's not around.
When he's gone, right?
Right.
And how much your team will step up because they want you to take that week or 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I go back. I think about like that grind period, right? I always, every successful businessman has went through a grinded out period in life where you look back and you go, "Gosh, dang, I worked so hard." I mean, people will never understand the amount of work you put in, but I'm sure you have. I mean, like just tenacious, focused, hard, nose to the grindstone work. And
well, one of my first jobs out of the Navy, like I said, construction and restaurants. So when I was doing a restaurant gig, as a manager, I was helping open a steakhouse. I was making $30,000 a year. I was working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And that's no exaggeration.
That's doing close opens, brother, right?
Exactly. You're there at 7 in the morning.
And the next day doing it again.
Yep. 7 in the morning till midnight, 7 days a week to get that thing open. And, but I was building my career. Now, I'm not advising anybody to do that. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but I just have that kind of work ethic. And then as I've started different businesses along the way, when I started my construction company and all that, it was kind of the same thing. I mean, I'm in. When I'm in, I am all in. And now, as I've gotten older, that's the other thing that I've transitioned to. At a young age, it was just nonstop. And,
Yep.
I had a little transition from the way I did things when I moved to the Outer Banks. I started taking weekends off and I got out of the restaurant business. I moved there to open restaurants, ended up getting into construction. So that was great because my weekends were mine, right? And
Yes.
then
Oh, once your weekends are yours, you're like, oh, hallelujah, man! Like this is the best thing
exactly.
since sliced bread.
So that was a great little transition there. And, so that was a lot of fun. But, still, I was in go mode. I was building that company. And in addition to that, I was coaching every sport that my kids played. I
Yeah.
was on all the boards and I was involved in the community. So, I mean, it was nonstop, right? Busy, busy, busy doing everything. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. So the way I do it now, I'm project based now. So if there's a project that I'm working on, whether it's a business, a company, or a development project, on the front end, I'm in, and I do my time in chunks, and I go in and I'm all in, and it's all day, every day, whatever I need to do to get that thing up and running. And it may
Yep.
be a month or 3 months or whatever, but once it's up and running, then I can step back and I can relax and I can just, you know, uh, put it on autopilot, right? So that's kind of
Sprint. You sprint, then you marathon.
right, just like a
Yeah.
multifamily deal, right? You find that multifamily property, and you've got to get the due diligence done. You've got to get the performance together. You've got to get the financing lined up. The property manager, you get it closed, and then you start attacking the value add, right? So
Yep.
same kind of thing. But once that's done, then you're just on autopilot.
It's just a
And as the
marathon.
as the
Yep.
units turn over, you renovate them, and you're just rolling through your business plan until you refi or sell. So that front end is the most important thing. You got to attack it. You got to hit it hard. You got to be on it. But then once you get through that, it's just smooth sailing.
Man,
And
that is the right analogy. That is exactly what it is. It's funny how the restaurant business teaches you that work ethic, right?
yeah, set
I'm just thinking
yourself.
about like you're saying these stories. I was like, gosh, like you would say, this is funny. You say you're coming in at 4 o'clock for the that's your shift time 4. You would never show up at 4 o'clock. That's a deadly sin, right? Like if 4 o'clock's your shift. Well, usually it's 3 o'clock would be your shift. You're showing up at like 11. I remember like if I have a 3 o'clock come in, I'm showing up at 11, maybe 12, but probably
Yeah.
11 because I want to show everybody that I'm out here paying attention. I want to know what's going on. Where's our numbers at? And that transfers over to my whole life ran that way too. So it's funny that we have that in
Well, it's
common. I
amazing.
love
So
that, Greg.
restaurants, I think everybody should work in a restaurant because you learn customer service, how to deal with people. You learn how to operate under pressure. You learn how to multitask. In the management level, it's all about the numbers, right? You're squeezing
Yep.
nickels out of pennies.
Yep.
Every single line item, every penny
Oh,
counts in the restaurant
everything.
industry. But the
Yeah.
biggest thing that I learned, and like you were talking about in terms of teams and all that, you have to be a delegator in the restaurant industry. You can't micromanage. You just can't. There's too much. So you've got to be able to have your people that you're delegating tasks to, and you've got lists and systems. Like a lot of people, what's a system? What's a system? Well, in a restaurant, it's a checklist. It's a procedure. It's technology. It's the POS system, right? Those are systems. So you've got a system in every place. So it teaches you the importance and the value and how to use and develop systems. And then it teaches you all about, in addition to that, all about accountability. And, gosh, I lost my train of thought on something else I was going to say. Maybe it'll come back to me. But that restaurant business, just with the multitasking.
Best thing ever happened to me, right? I remember.
Yeah.
I spent 4 years. I was managed a steakhouse as well, and and a quality steakhouse. So there's a difference between being, we'll call it, I won't say Outback, but I want to say Outback. So that that's a steakhouse, but that's not what I'm talking. We're
Were
talking
you
about
at Lone Star?
I was actually no, I was at it's called Charleston's. It's
Yeah,
out.
I know Charleston's. Yeah, I was at Lone Star Steakhouses.
Okay, yep. So Charleston's was like, that was our little deal. We're like, no, we're Charleston's. We're not Outback, right? Like we don't sell our food. Like we had positions, right? So you come
Yeah.
up to a table. There's position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the food comes out, so
Yeah.
who's got what, right?
Yeah, pivot points. Yeah, you come up to the table. Your pivot point is the first corner to the left, and it's
Yep.
all the way around.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say. Setting up for success. So the last thing in all that was setting up for success. So in your organization, what we do as leaders, we're there to serve everybody, right? And you remember how it is at the end of the shift. You set up the shift for the morning for success. You have
Yeah.
the coffee ready to go, the tea ready to go, the plates are restocked, the line, everything is ready.
Everything's rolled. Yeah.
Next shift is set for success. So that's the other thing it teaches you in business is to set your organization up for success and to set your day up for success. So me, first thing in the morning, last thing in the day, first thing in the morning, right? I'm setting my self up for success for those next days. So I don't have to, worry, wake up in the middle of the night and go, man, what do I got to do tomorrow? I've already set it up before I ever, end my day. I already know what I'm going to do tomorrow as soon as I get up, so those are some valuable skills, and it translates into any business. So I just took all of that and put it into the construction industry, and then I put it into every other business that I've done. And they're all based off of what I learned in the restaurants. I mean, that's really where it came from.
Gosh, what a great story, dude. We didn't even know this is how this is going to turn out.
No.
I love this analogy because it truly is so true, right? Because I've been in that restaurant business. I've put my time and effort in that. One of the best teaching of business ethics and processes that you'll ever find is in a really nice restaurant, right? It'll teach you everything. So what are you doing right now that's got you juiced and that's got you excited?
So I'm working on some. I like the heavy lift stuff. So again, I always say at this point in my life, I like the stuff where you got to dig in, you get dirty. I like taking old buildings, making them new. I love the old brick. I love taking warehouses and repurposing them into modern open space environments. Maybe you have a brewery in there and you've got some open space office and restaurants and different environments. Taking a building and having that on the ground floor and maybe some apartments above. Or finding an apartment building like I had one I looked at in Georgia the other day. I don't know, it was 250, 300 units. I've been 350 units. It's a big one. And a friend of mine looked at it. He's like, oh, man, that thing's stucco, and everybody's complaining the windows are leaking. That's a nightmare. I'm like, I love it. I know exactly how to deal with that because when I was a remodeling guy, I went to a bunch of houses that had Pyrex on it, right, stucco, and I ripped it off and rebuilt the house from the outside in because it was all water rotted and all that. So that doesn't scare me at all. I know how to price it. I know what it takes. I know exactly how to do it, so I'm working on one of those right now, trying to get that deal under contract to go in there and do, because each building's going to have to be stripped and, all of the stucco stripped, all the windows replaced, the studs replaced, the sills probably. So, I know exactly what's involved. So I've got a little advantage over other people that are just kind of afraid of it.
Yeah. And lots of people are going to be afraid of it.
Right. So that kind of stuff. I love heavy lift, value add. I don't mind the lipstick stuff, but it seems to me there's a better niche in the heavy lift value add stuff because a lot of people just don't want to mess with it.
No, they don't have that knowledge or experience in in that type of rehab. Like you said, like you're just doing these small rehabs all your life, 1.5 mil or something, right? Just the small ones. Well, that's kind of set the tone for what you're doing now. That stuff doesn't even scare you, faze you. You've seen it all.
Right. And I coach people, and I had one of my guys come to me, and he's like, man, I don't even know where to begin. It's just this huge thing. I said, look, you've got 20 buildings of 10 units. It's just one building with 10 units. If I went and sent you to do that one building, would you be able to do that one building? Yeah. I'm like, okay, we'll do the one building and go to the next and go to the next. Make a list. I said, that's all it is. He's like, I never thought of it like that. I'm looking at this huge monster. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem, right? People look at this huge monster. And really, it's just
a building. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think that's why a lot of people translate from the single family world into multifamily, fix and flip, because it's really the same thing. One building is a big house, right? So anyways, I really enjoy that. I'm doing those, and I'm working on a couple of ground up projects, some opportunity zone projects, trying to get a hotel out of the ground in one of our markets. But, construction costs are just, on that bigger stuff, when you get in the $20 to $50 million range on construction, it's crazy.
Right. Well, dude, that sounds like just a lot of fun, a lot of, it's just pretty crafty. I love, even in this market, there's ways to find money. It's an expensive market, but it's all relative. It's all relative what you know and what you know how to take and transition stuff. Because even like in this market, I love that ideal of the older office, or not office space, but
warehouses. Yeah,
warehouses. Gosh dang, that's hip and cool in the right spot, right?
And you go around an urban core that where there's some gentrification going on, and you look for where that's expanding around that urban center. So a lot of people are doing the multifamily, this, that, and the other. So look for these buildings that are just sitting there and reimagine it. And be part of that, bringing back a neighborhood. And some of those are in opportunity zones now, and there's a lot of money chasing those deals to repurpose a lot of these old buildings and revitalize a lot of these urban cores.
Yep.
So that's a lot of fun, and you can just really neat stuff. Like one of the spaces that we're working on, you've got it's an open collaborative environment. So you can have some artists in there, some sculptors, some metal frame welder dudes. Then you've got somebody over here like making distilling and doing brewery, and then just you can, and then you got somebody doing an office or some startup.
Man, okay, you're just something. I just had one of my friends back in the day. He was taking, like, especially in the East Coast, right? So, he's like, dude, you go to these little areas, they're outsides, and it's the cultural artists, all that stuff, right? They all need places to work, right? And so that was what his biggest deal was. He'd go in there and fill it with art and cool and hip, and have like these little spaces for all these people, and then it becomes cool, and then like a restaurant or something, and you create a hub, and next thing you know, and then like the next phase is everybody moves in, prices go up. Now you take it back out and you make it apartments again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just amazing.
Or
you can turn it
condos.
into the market, and you've got everybody's like a vendor in there, and they're selling their work too. And maybe you do an open house on weekends, and they work all week to sell their product on the weekends. So there's any number of things that you can do. It's really cool.
That is amazing. Well, listen. Last thing, tax laws, cost segregation. I've been asked to talk a little bit more about that kind of stuff. Any insight into that for you and your companies, and how that's affecting anything that you guys do?
No, I haven't really gotten into that. That can be, so the stuff that I do is just, like I said, it's heavy lift, value add, or ground up. So that a lot of times doesn't apply to a lot of the things that we do. And we're short term. So we're in and out in 3 to 5 years. So I think cost segregation is probably a longer term play for existing assets.
Yep.
And it's expensive, right? So you got to spend some money on that. So if you've got a large enough asset with enough time in it, I think it can be valuable, and it can be a great thing to do, but it's not anything. I don't have any experience with it. I haven't done that with any of my projects.
Right. Cool. Well, listen, dude, Greg, what a great show, dude. I love some of the foundational principles. We're just gonna go in. If you have any advice, it's advice for my audience, right? Your whole 22 years of experience, best piece of advice.
Go big. Go bigger than you think you can, and partner with great operators like Cory. Go out there, find the biggest deal that you can find that works, and call Cory and say, hey, man, I got this deal. I don't know how to get it done. Let's do this thing.
That's awesome. If people want to get a hold of you or check out your companies, where do they find you at?
And mine is, if you got the dirtiest, ugliest thing and it's big, call me.
Attaboy.
So my website, gregdickerson.com, all my contact info is on there. It's greg@gregdickerson.com. My number, 434-326-3903. I answer the phone. I have no backlog in my life. I'm very, I take care of everything right now. So I'm never behind. I never have backlog, and I answer the phone when people call. So website, gregdickerson.com. It's all on there. I'm putting some videos on YouTube about some different things that I've experienced in my career on the different asset classes, different things that we just talked about, stuff like this. So I've got some pretty cool stuff there as well.
Cool. Hey, guys, make sure you go check that out. Greg, as always, thank you so much for coming on my show and giving me just valuable nuggets and your wonderful wisdom. I mean, to have your success, to start from what you did and to build it that way, it's an extraordinary feat. But it's not as hard as most people think, right? But you just stayed focused and consistent. And guys, listen, you listen to this podcast for a reason. We bring in great guests just like Greg, but if you can believe it, you can achieve it, because your paradise is possible.